Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Southern Drink Review. I'm Derek,
And I'm Dan.
and we are here today with the review of one of the most popular events in all of Georgia, the Renaissance Festival. That's right, grown men dressed up like they're from 600 years ago and beating each other up in armor and eating big giant turkey legs.
Yes, turkey legs. Yeah.
The turkey legs were quite good. Too
Yep.
expensive, I thought.
And
I'm a cheapskate. What can I say? So, Dan, how many times have you been to the Renaissance Festival?
I've been to Renaissance Festival probably 4 times, I would say, over the years since it started.
Um, I think I've been about the same, maybe a little, maybe three times.
Hmm.
I haven't been in a couple years. Had the baby, had to wait till she was old enough. Really, actually, funny enough, actually I say that. And the last time we went, she was in a stroller, so
Okay.
I guess she was old enough when she was born.
Right.
Um, but yes, so for those of you not familiar, the Georgia Renaissance Festival, or just about, I guess there's probably lots of Renaissance festivals around the U.S., is basically a small town, or in this case, I guess it was a farm that was converted over to a small town. And it has a bunch of shops, and basically all the shops are showing off wares and skills from the Middle Ages. It's all quite anachronistic. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of stuff there that wasn't actually back then, but you know, whatever. It's fun. That's all that matters, I guess.
Yep. And I'll
Uh,
tell you from my experience, because I originally went to the Renaissance Festival when it was fairly new, maybe even brand new, the first time that I went. And it started off where it was a field, there were tents, there were a couple looked like hastily constructed buildings. There were some medieval games, throwing knives and things like that. And it was cool. It looked like a little town, maybe a town just starting up. And you visited and you got to see the shops and it was really cool. And it was still, pretty much a full day event. Now, coming back years later, uh, imagine a town that has grown for, gosh, I don't know how
I
long
think
it's
it's 25
20,
years.
25 years. Yes. And so now you've got an actual town with proper buildings and,
Hmm.
many more shops and a blacksmith and everything. And so it's very interesting to see how this town has grown in 25 years. And over the years, I mean, you could see the progression, and so it's still the same thing. It's just a lot bigger. Still the same types of things to do. It's still fun, still a full day event, and it's something I would definitely recommend doing.
Yeah. Well, me and you thought it was fun. I talked to the wives afterwards, and they said that the next time we go, it's gonna be me and you without them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was quite fun. Now, one thing though that they like to do at these Renaissance festivals, because it tends to be kind of hot, because they have them in the late spring and summer, is sell alcohol. And as we are a drinking show, we decided to go review the Renaissance Festival. A full day at the Renaissance Festival. We made friends and shopped and just generally had fun.
So I will say about the whole wife situation is that um, I don't think we did the Renaissance Festival in the way that you should. So the ways that I've done it in the past before I was married was for me, I like to go and I like to stop at every single shop. It's sort of like a craft fair, except with a Renaissance theme. And so I like to go in every shop and look at all the
I'll
interesting
point out Dan just admitted he goes to craft fairs.
when I'm forced. And but I mean, just medieval things. You get to see like things like swords and stuff that people have made, and
And glass blowing. I do like the glass blowing, I have to
yes,
admit.
yes, and you get to. We talked to the blacksmith. The blacksmith was very personable, and was willing to talk about pretty much anything that we wanted to talk about.
I asked him questions. I am very interested in knives and swords and know quite a bit. And he obviously knew quite a bit too and was able to answer every question that I had about them. So,
Right. And so that's one of the things. And then of course the shows we saw the what was it? The barely balanced acrobatic troupe.
yes, that was fun. A
That
shout
was
out to
fun.
them. Those guys are pretty fun. Relatively short show, but considering the atmosphere, that's perfectly good because that way you can watch them and go on to do something else.
Yeah, so I think the best way to see it would be to go and just kind of go through the shops, look at what's there, and then while kind of plan your stuff around the shows. Go see the shows while when they're on because they're intermittent, and kind of just if you plan your day around it a little bit better, I think, and you want to see what's inside the shops, I think it would be a better experience.
Yeah, the only downside to it is that as you saw the pictures that we took while we were there aren't any actual taverns there, which I cannot figure out. Uh, Truthfully, if you had an actual tavern on premises that was serving food and beer, it would make a killing. The only thing I can figure is that the other merchants who sell beer there, because there are about what 5 or 6 you think merchants selling alcohol,
Hmm.
probably said that you're not allowed to have it. That's the
Right.
only thing I can figure.
Well, I'm sure it's probably the way that the management or whatever you want to call it of the Renaissance Festival work, because the whole food and drink situation is basically a food court situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like the biggest outdoor mall that I've been to in a while.
Right.
You got like what 2 different food courts and maybe a couple of carts floating around, like the lady over by the joust serving beef jerky, which I had it last time I was there. It was okay if I remember correctly. I truthfully can't remember. It's been several years, so
Hmm.
I do remember having a good experience with the beef jerky though. So.
Right. But I'm a
Uh,
big sucker for turkey legs. There are plenty of turkey legs to go around, and I had my leg. It was great. So.
Yeah, I had my turkey leg too. It's it was good. It was quite good. Even my wife sat there and despite her misgivings about the Renaissance Festival, did enjoy the turkey leg. So, but we are not a food review.
That's right.
We're a
That's right.
drink
That's
review.
right. That's right.
So, the drinks on hand at the Renaissance Festival are unfortunately a little more limited than you would like. So basically, out of the 5 or 6 stations where you can go and buy alcohol, they were almost all of them sold Bud, Coors,
Hmm.
um, Leinenkugel Summer
Yep.
Shandy,
Yep.
which is okay. I'm a huge fan of Leinenkugel, not a huge fan of their Summer Shandy,
Yeah. I
but
think it's good.
it's a good summer beer, which makes
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
What they serve margaritas, some wine,
Right.
and almost everywhere sold the Wildflower Honey Mead from Monk's Meadery, um, which Monk's Meadery, for those of you who don't know, is the oldest meadery in Atlanta. But truthfully, their honey flower mead, the wildflower mead, I should say, not honey flower. Not a huge fan. You liked it pretty good. You had
Yeah, it
some
was
there.
pretty good. So for $6 you get a cup about that big, and so you don't get very much. But it was good, and I would say as far as meads goes, it wasn't bad. It was sweet. It was a little tart. It had the mouthfeel of like most meads. You could there was definitely some carbonation there. Um, but it wasn't something that knocked my socks off. But it was nice to be there at the Renaissance Festival and have a meet.
Now, one thing though that had changed since last time I was there is they had a craft brewery as one of their vendors, namely Terrapin. Now, Terrapin, if you go and look it up, has been bought, at least a majority share of it has been bought by AB InBev. So they are technically under the Budweiser umbrella, but they still have their craft roots. So most of the places you went, they had their High Five IPA. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the High Five IPA, but I drank it. It was good. So then, though, we went over to what is basically the main event of the Renaissance Festival, the Joust.
Hmm.
Basically, think of it as a little more intense version of medieval times. 2 guys, and in this case, a couple girls came out. They do some jousting. There's sword fighting. There's horse work. Everything else. And there was a small tent there set up to sell alcohol.
Hmm.
And the thing that caught my eye was that yes, they had all the same stuff listed there as normal, but the mead was listed as Stigmata mead, and it
Hmm.
was $8 as opposed to the 6 that you paid for your small taster. Also, I noticed that they sold all their stuff from cans. Every place else was draft, but this place was selling cans, and so the Terrapin can, instead of being the normal High Five IPA that was everywhere else, was their double IPA of Hopsecutioner, which is one of both of our favorite beers right there.
Hmm.
So, the Stigmata.
All right, so I've got a can here. My force power is not working, so I have to stand up and grab it. So give me just one second. All right, so this is what you get for your $8. Instead of getting a small glass of mead, you get a full can like this. And so this is Monk's Meadery, George's first meadery. It says it's a hibiscus session mead with rose, and
Oh, I
so
got more. Got more.
oh okay, and elderflower and lightly hopped. So I will say that this actually was very good. So Derek I'd let Derek have a taste as well.
I'll tell you right now. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the wildflower mead from Monk's Meadery. This was a home run. This
Yes.
was everything you want out of a session mead. It was light. It was certainly quaffable. It wasn't sweet. It was dry, so you could keep
Yes, it was
drinking
actually
it.
very tart. It was almost like like a
Hmm.
sour beer, you know. I was it's like
I don't know if I go that far, but
it was pretty tart. I mean, it was almost like a goza without salt, you know. But you could taste the hibiscus, you could taste the floral of it. I mean, I loved it.
the biggest thing was is that flower taste gave you the sensation of something sweet that you were drinking, but it didn't have that cloyingness that
Hmm.
makes you go, okay, I've had 2 drinks of this. I am done. One other thing to note about this, actually, Dan, if you could grab that
Oh,
can,
sure, sure,
is
sure.
that this is a custom label. This is a private label that Monk's Meadery did especially for the Renaissance
Yeah.
Festival. It's got a little bit about the Monk's Meadery on the back there and tells you it's the oldest meadery, I should say, in Atlanta. Oh, and
Yep.
it's gluten free. It says right there
Right,
too.
right.
We should always be sure to have our mead be gluten free.
That's right. But you know, it has a little. I'm not sure if that's an accurate map of the Renaissance Festival.
It's pretty accurate. I was
Yeah.
looking at the map all day as we were trying to find our way around the
Oh yeah,
place. That's relatively
yeah.
accurate, actually.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Here's the deal. Look, so without even looking at the other side, without even looking at the other side, here is where we never went down this. No, this is where we saw the Barely Balanced show, and then if you go around here, right about here should be the joust
And then
area,
that's where it
right? Is
is.
that what it
That's
is?
correct. Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So actually, it's a very accurate map of it. But you can only get this can at the Renaissance Festival, I do believe. Although they do sell it at other outlets,
Hmm.
according to the can at least. Not 100% sure. We need to talk to our local liquor store about carrying this because it is an awesome
It
mead.
is. It is
If
good.
you guys live in the Atlanta area or if Monk's Meadery distributes out to wherever you're at, get your hands on this if you like mead.
Right.
Now, one other thing that was there that you didn't get to try, and well, truthfully, I didn't get to try there either, but I've had it before, was from Terrapin, and it was their Recreation Ale. Basically, their session IPA. But I happened to go and grab a can of it right here. Terrapin Recreation Ale Session IPA. You see, it's got the outdoorsy stuff to it. It's got the, what is that? It's got the Terrapin turtles sitting there hiking through the mountains.
Hmm.
So this is one of my favorite IPAs. As a session, it's not super over the top. It's not super over the top malty, not super over the top hoppy, but it's definitely an IPA and it's very well balanced for an IPA. That's the one thing that I don't like about some IPAs is that they're so hop forward, it's all out of whack. So Dan, go ahead and take your taste
Oh,
and tell me
okay.
what you think about it. So the first time I had this was probably only about a month ago, maybe
Smell
six
the
weeks ago.
hops. Smell the hops.
It's got a great nose on it. This has been sitting out for about 5-10 minutes, which should be the optimal temperature for them to go and taste the beer. That's one thing for those of you who don't go and drink very many IPAs and such to know is that if you grab an IPA and it's ice cold, when you drink it, all you're going to taste is bitterness. You're not going to taste the actual hops, which is floral and citrus. You need to let it warm up a bit. It doesn't need to be room temperature, but it can't be ice cold either. So Dan, let me know what you think now.
Okay, well, I can definitely taste the hops, but it's not overly bitter at all. It's actually for an IPA does not have that much bitterness. The hops taste very. I think the hops taste very good. A little malty, barely like a touch of citrus. I think. Definitely you have a citrusy smell for
Oh, I
sure.
think it's a grapefruit bomb, and once
You
you
think
go and
so?
taste that,
Yeah,
go ahead and take another sip. It's just like a huge grapefruit taste after you get past the malt.
maybe. I don't know. I it could be that my palate is not what it should be right now, but I mean,
We
I can definitely taste the grapefruit. Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you what. After, because you know, as you probably saw, I took a drink, took another drink. If I just let it sit in my mouth, once the hops goes away, then I can taste the grapefruit. And
and you
like
know
right
that might
now,
be it.
even right now on my tongue, I can taste the grapefruit now.
You know that might be it because I tend to take a sip. I don't tend to go and suck these down. You know,
Right, right.
I'll take a sip and I'll wait a minute so I can explore all the different flavors. Yes, I know I sound very pretentious right now, but give it a try. Take a sip of the beer. If you guys can get your hands on some of the recreation ale, you know, come back to this video and watch it again and take some sips and see if we're talking right or not.
Hmm.
But let me know what else you taste to it. Go ahead, just sit
Hmm.
there and take another sip. So first of all, what do you smell
You can definitely smell
on?
the citrusy kind of grapefruity stuff. You can definitely smell the hops there. So when I, smelled it, I kind of expected it to be a little bitter, but it's barely got any bitterness. It doesn't, you can smell it, but you can't taste it, which I think is nice. I mean, you can still taste there's still bitterness there, but I think it's at a good level for this.
Yeah. So when I sit there,
Mm.
take it in. Now, when we say it's balanced, it's not super malty.
Right.
It's definitely hop forward.
Hmm.
You know, there's just enough malt there to balance out the
Hmm.
hops so that it's not just a hop bomb in your mouth. The malt is just sweet, not very toasty or anything else. It's
Hmm.
just a little bit of sweetness, has a little bit of body on your
Right,
tongue,
right.
and then you get hit with the hops.
Yeah. And I even tasting that sweetness, I think I taste a little bit of floral in there as well.
Mhm.
When I taste that hops, it's sort of like a sweet floralness, but barely. Everything's very it's subdued. I mean, definitely for an IPA, that when you drink an IPA, there's always a lot of flavor there. It's very flavorful, right? And and the only reason I'm saying it's subdued, it's not that it doesn't have flavor. It's just like you said, it's very well balanced.
Mhm.
And so you can't taste one thing over the other. It's just all right
Well, see,
there.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that you can taste the hops exceptionally well, which it should be that way for an IPA. I think that the malt is balanced enough just to go and for the bitterness level.
Hmm.
But I don't think that you can really go in depth with the malt. The malt is there, and you're like, oh, there's some malt sweetness, there's a little tiny bit of breadiness, and then the malt goes away and everything else is hops.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm saying is that I think right there, let's say for the initial taste, when you have it in your mouth before you swallow it, I think everything's well balanced. You taste everything together. Now, the aftertaste, right? I've swallowed it now. At that point, that's when I think I taste the grapefruit.
Hmm.
That's when certain flavors come out that are kind of mixed in there to begin with.
Now, one thing I'll note, this has a tiny bit of pininess. But
I agree
Dan
with that.
knows that I'm not a pine guy. I do not like to drink IPAs that taste like I'm drinking Christmas trees that have been blended up. This one has a little bit on it, but it's definitely much more grapefruit on the palate, I
Right, right.
feel.
And I think it's a good mix at the end, like the finish. As after I've swallowed it, that's when I can taste the grapefruit. That's when I can taste some pine.
Hmm. A little bit of bitterness that
Yeah, and
lingers
the
on the
business and
tongue.
the bitterness, but that
And
goes without saying for an IPA, I think.
and the other thing is that it's dry.
Yeah, it is.
It's not cloyingly sweet. This is a great session beer.
Hmm.
Terrapin. I'm a huge fan of Terrapin. They might be taking their place as my top brewery. Okay, I've got a couple of breweries that I go and hold in high esteem. A couple of local ones. Now Terrapin, Three Taverns, Scofflaw is pretty good.
Hmm.
And then my overall one, you've got Victory and you've got Weyerbacher. Those are all some of my most favorite breweries
Yeah,
out there. And
Weyerbacher's good.
Terrapin is definitely coming in to
Hmm.
the top level because they've got this, they've got that rye pale ale, they've got their Hopsecutioner. I mean, they just know what they're doing with this kind of stuff, you know? So, Terrapin, what you're doing with the recreation ale, keep doing it. We like it.
Hmm.
So, any final thoughts?
I think. Well, let's ask the
Well,
question. Let's ask the
final
question.
thoughts on recreation ale or on the Georgia Renaissance Festival.
Okay, Georgia Renaissance Festival. I would say that you have to do it once. Um,
If you like it, do it again.
if you like to do it again, exactly.
The one thing I'll say, bring probably a couple $100 in spending cash though,
Yeah, it's a little pricey. It's a little
and
pricey.
it is almost exclusively cash only.
Yes.
That's the big thing.
That is a big thing. So there are certain things that you can pay with a card, usually higher end items. Other than that, you're going to be paying cash.
And there's an ATM there, but of course you got to pay the ATM fee.
And
So
the line for the ATM,
yes, it took
ridiculous.
us 15 minutes to just get to the ATM.
Yes, through the line.
Yeah.
It was
So
crazy. Okay, that's
now
it.
on the
Now the
recreation
beer.
ale.
One last taste. Very refreshing. What would you eat this with, or drink
Well,
this with? What would you eat with this?
gotcha. Okay, so maybe we've been having a bit too much of the recreation ale.
Yeah.
All right, what would I have with this? IPAs, they go with anything that has a strong flavor to it.
Right.
But this one, you probably don't want to go as all out as you would go with a regular IPA. So, what I would recommend, I would actually say that this would be a good beer to go and have after mowing the lawn or doing yard work. Actually, it's not so bitter that it's going to sit there and kill your palate. It's not super full of body, so you can't drink it. You can kill this pretty well, I feel.
Well, if you got done mowing the lawn, you wanted to have one beer, I think this would be good. Two beers, I think this would be a good one.
Well, see, this is the thing. It's a session IPA. I think it earns that title. I would have no problem barbecuing all day with this beer.
Okay.
I would have no problem having this beer with barbecue. Anything that's got a relatively strong flavor, steaks, barbecue, burgers, IPA will fit with
Yeah,
all them.
and I'm
Pizza's a
right.
good one.
I'm thinking I'm out at a restaurant. Maybe I order myself a nice burger. This would go great with that.
You know what? I think it would go well even with wings. You know
I
what?
think so too. I
Yeah,
think
it's,
so
it's
too.
drinkable enough that you
Right.
could definitely have this with wings. It's not going to be something that you're like, oh, I just had this IPA. Now I can't taste my wings anymore.
Right. Right.
So, all right. Last thing, Dan. What's the rating on this? Out of
Oh,
5 stars.
gosh.
I've been thinking about this.
I don't want to just give it a five, because I think five should be held for something extremely ridiculous. Like there's certain beers that we have tried that are just amazing. And
This is pretty darn amazing,
it's
though.
really good. I'm gonna have to give it a four. You can give it a five if you want, but I'm giving it a four.
I'm gonna
Strong
go.
four though. Strong four.
I'm gonna go 4.5.
Okay, four and a half. Four and a half.
So we're agreed. 4.5 stars on this. It's
Yes.
it's it's
For
it's pretty
yes.
much as close to perfection as you can get. I'm trying to think of another. I actually like this better than Hopsecutioner.
Okay.
I love me some
I
Hopsecutioner.
love Hopscutioner as well.
What do you think about this related to Hopsecutioner? And it's a different beer because
It
it's a
is.
double IPA.
Yeah.
But still, what do you think in relation to it? Give me an answer here. I'm left hanging.
I know. I think it's at least as good.
It's at least as good. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
It's at
I'll
least
take
good.
that.
Yeah.
So, 4.5 stars. Terrapin Recreational. Terrapin, keep doing what you're doing. We love what you're doing. Or if he doesn't, I love what you're doing. And I'm the one that talks a lot more. So you want to keep me happy if possible. All right. So, I'm Derek.
I'm Dan.
This has been the Southern Drink Review. Go to the Georgia Renaissance Festival. We're going to remind you, please always drink responsibly. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks.